It's Liverpool, it's 1890, and a ship is unloading 19 tons of dead cats. Roughly 180,000 of them, mummified, taken out of one cemetery at Beni Hassan in Middle Egypt. They go to auction. They sell for about £4 a ton. And they are ground up and spread on English fields as fertilizer. The auctioneer, by one account, used one of the cats as his gavel. That is what became of the most famous animal cult in history, ground up for turnips. Here's what I want you to sit with. We all know the story. Egypt worshipped cats, cats domesticated themselves in Egypt, and every cat since is Egyptian. Half of that is wrong, and half of it is more right than you'd expect, and the interesting part is which half. Egypt did not create the cat. The domestic cat descends from the African wildcat, Felis libica, and the process starts in the Near East with farming around 10,000 years ago. Grain in one place means rodents in one place, which means a small ambush predator that is perfectly happy living beside people who never invited it. And we have a date. On Cyprus, at a site called Shiloh Rokombos, a cat was buried next to a human being around 7,500 BCE. A cat on an island it could not have swum to, which means somebody put it on a boat. That's thousands of years before Egypt has a state, let alone a cat goddess. So no, Egypt didn't invent them. Egypt did something stranger. So today, the grain, the goddess, the industry, and the DNA. Egypt's contribution was scale. Start with the goddess, Bastet, whose cult center was Bubastis in the Delta, and who by the first millennium BCE is one of the most popular deities in the country. Herodotus, visiting around 450 BCE, calls the festival there the biggest in Egypt, and describes households mourning a dead cat by shaving their eyebrows. Diodorus, writing later, records a Roman being killed by a mob in Alexandria for killing one. Now here's the mechanism, and it's the part that isn't cute. If you want something from a god in Egypt, you buy a votive offering, a small object dedicated on your behalf left at the temple, standing in for you permanently. For Bastet, the appropriate offering is a cat, which means the temple needs a supply of cats, constantly. Forever. So they kept them, bred them in enclosures attached to temples, in numbers that are hard to picture, and the cemeteries hold the result. Hundreds of thousands of mummified animals, in places stacked in galleries cut into the rock. And when those mummies get x-rayed and scanned, the pattern is consistent, and it's grim. A great many are very young, a few months old, some younger, and a lot of them with broken necks. These were not beloved pets who died of old age and were given a burial. They were raised to be killed, wrapped, and sold to a pilgrim at the gate. A cat mummy isn't a grave. It's a receipt for a prayer. I want to be careful here. Not every cat mummy is a votive. Plenty of individual animals were genuinely mourned, and some bundles turn out to hold nothing but rags and a couple of bones, which tells you the trade had a fraud problem too. But the industrial version is real, and it is enormous. Nobody designed that. It's what a popular god, plus a cash economy, plus a breeding pair does over a few centuries. All right, here's where this whole thing turns over. In 2017, a team published ancient DNA from cats spanning thousands of years, Egyptian mummies included. And the maternal lineages tell a story nobody was expecting. The early spread of cats out of the Near East is one wave. Then, in the first millennium BCE, a second lineage starts turning up everywhere, across the Mediterranean, into Europe, on ships, eventually as far as a Viking Age port on the Baltic. That second lineage is Egyptian. It moved because Egypt had, entirely by accident, produced an enormous population of cats that were comfortable around people. In a country full of ports, in exactly the centuries when Greek and Roman shipping was moving everything everywhere. Every grain ship on the Mediterranean wanted a rodent killer. Egypt had a surplus. So the claim in the title is wrong about the origin and closer to right about the ancestry. Egypt didn't make the first cat. Egypt made most of the ones that came after. Here's what I keep coming back to. Somewhere in the Delta, 25 centuries ago, there's a temple enclosure with cats in it. A man walks up to the gate, hands over a few coins, takes a small wrapped bundle, gives it back, and asks the goddess for something. A child, a harvest, somebody to get better. Then he goes home, and the bundle goes into a gallery in the rock with 250,000 others. And in 1890, a shipload of them is sold in Liverpool for £4 a ton. The cat, asleep on your furniture right now, is descended on its mother's side from that. Not from the worship, and not from the goddess, from the surplus, from the industry, from the ships. We say Egypt worshipped cats. Egypt farmed cats. And the farming is the reason you have one. So, was that worship? Breeding an animal by the 100,000 in order to kill it as a message to a god who has its face. I genuinely don't know what to call it. Let me know in the comments. Until then, see you soon.